I stared at my phone, the wedding photos staring back at me. Each swipe brought another perfectly captured moment of betrayal. My sister Emma beaming in her designer dress that I paid for, standing next to Mark. My Mark. Well, my ex-Mark. My name is Sophie Chen, and at 32, I thought I finally put my past behind me. I had a successful career as an investment banker, a beautiful apartment in the city, and most importantly, I finally stopped having nightmares about my ex-husband stealing every penny I had. But looking at these photos, all those old wounds ripped open again. Let me back up. 2 months ago, Emma called me crying. "Sophie, I need your help," she sobbed into the phone. James left me. James was her fiancé of 3 years. They'd been planning a wedding for months, and Emma had already put down several non-refundable deposits. He said he met someone else, she managed between hiccups. The wedding's in 8 weeks, and I'm going to lose everything. My heart broke for her. Emma was my little sister, and despite our 5-year age gap, we'd always been close. When our parents died in a car accident 10 years ago, we became each other's only family. I'd watched her grow from a rebellious teenager into a kindergarten teacher, always proudly supporting her dreams. "How much have you already spent?" I asked, already opening my banking app. $15,000, she whispered. "The venue, the caterer, the photographer. Sophie, I can't pay them back. I'm still paying off my student loans." I didn't hesitate. "Don't worry about the money. We'll figure something out." What I meant was, I would figure something out. I always did. That's what big sisters are for, right? Over the next few weeks, Emma's mood shifted dramatically. Instead of canceling the wedding, she insisted on going through with it. "I met someone amazing," she gushed during one of our lunch dates. "He's perfect, Sophie. He wants to marry me, and he doesn't care about keeping the wedding date." I was surprised but happy for her. "That's fast. Are you sure?" "When you know," she said, stirring her latte. "You'll meet him at the wedding." I wanted to be a surprise. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. The way she avoided details about her mystery man, how she stopped inviting me to dress fittings and cake tastings, the strange smirk she'd get when talking about the honeymoon. But I was too busy paying for everything. The original $15,000 turned into $45,000 as Emma kept adding things to the wedding. A better venue, a more expensive dress, premium flowers. Each time, she'd call with tear-filled gratitude, promising to pay me back someday. "You're the best sister ever," she'd say. "I don't know what I'd do without you." I dipped into my savings, justifying each expense. Emma deserved her dream wedding, even if the groom had changed. Besides, I could afford it. After my divorce from Mark 2 years ago, I'd worked myself to the bone rebuilding my finances. 60-hour weeks, no vacations, minimal socializing. I'd finally gotten back to a comfortable place. Mark had been my college sweetheart. We married young, at 24, and for 4 years, everything seemed perfect. He was charming, ambitious, and could make me laugh like no one else. What I didn't know was that he was also a pathological liar and a gambling addict. I discovered the truth when I tried to buy us tickets for our anniversary vacation. All our accounts were empty, our savings, our checking, even my personal account, everything gone. Mark had been forging my signature, taking out loans, and maxing out credit cards. He'd lost it all at underground poker games and online betting sites. When I confronted him, he broke down crying, promising to change, to get help. I almost believed him, until I found out he'd also mortgaged our house without my knowledge. The bank was foreclosing, and we were $500,000 in debt. I filed for divorce immediately. Mark disappeared, leaving me to clean up his mess. It took 2 years of legal battles and financial sacrifices to clear my name and rebuild my credit. The only silver lining was that we never had children. Now, standing in my apartment the morning after Emma's wedding, I felt that familiar sick feeling in my stomach, the same one I'd had when I discovered Mark's betrayal. Emma's wedding had been beautiful. The historic mansion venue, the string quartet, the gourmet meal, everything was perfect. I'd stood in the back, waiting to catch my first glimpse of the mysterious groom. Then the wedding march began, and my world stopped. Mark walked down the aisle, looking exactly as I remembered him, the same confident stride, the same charming smile. He was wearing an expensive suit, probably bought with my sister's money. My money. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what I was seeing. The brother of the bride is supposed to walk her down the aisle since our parents were gone. That was supposed to be my role. Instead, I watched as my baby sister married my ex-husband, the man who had destroyed my life. The ceremony passed in a blur. I didn't hear the vows, didn't join in the applause. All I could focus on was Emma's face, not nervous or embarrassed, but triumphant. She knew exactly what she was doing. During the reception, she grabbed the microphone, champagne glass in hand. "I need to thank my amazing sister Sophie," she announced to the room full of guests. "None of this would have been possible without her generosity." She turned to me, her eyes glinting. "Mark and I couldn't have done this without you." The room erupted in applause while I stood frozen, my own champagne glass slipping from my numb fingers. It shattered on the floor, but I barely heard it over the roaring in my ears. Mark caught my eye from across the room and had the audacity to wink. I left before the cake cutting. Nobody tried to stop me. Why would they? They'd gotten what they wanted, a perfect wedding, funded by the very person they were betraying. Now, scrolling through the photos posted on social media, I noticed details I'd missed in my shock. The way Mark and Emma were always touching in their engagement photos taken weeks ago while I was still writing checks. The familiar way they moved together during their first dance, suggesting this wasn't a new relationship. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Thanks again for everything, sis. Mark and I are headed to Bali, first-class tickets. Thanks to you." Another buzz. "B2O, we'll be moving into our new house when we get back. The down payment cleared yesterday. That last check you wrote for the catering upgrade really helped." I sat down heavily on my couch, my legs no longer able to support me. The betrayal was complete, carefully planned, and expertly executed. My sister and my ex-husband had played me perfectly. A third text came through. "Don't be mad, Sophie. It's not like you were using the money for anything important. Besides, Mark says you owe him for all the years he wasted with you." That's when something inside me snapped. The hurt and shock transformed into cold, clear anger. I'm an investment banker. I understand money, contracts, and most importantly, consequences. Emma and Mark might think they've won, but they've forgotten one crucial detail. Everything was in my name. I picked up my phone and made 3 calls, one to my lawyer, one to the bank, and one to a private investigator. By the time Mark and Emma returned from their honeymoon, they'd learned that sometimes the most expensive things in life are free. I opened my laptop and started documenting everything, every check, every transfer, every text message discussing the wedding expenses. Something told me I was going to need all of it. "Game on, little sister," I muttered, starting a new email to my lawyer. Game on. The next morning, I awoke to 12 missed calls and 23 text messages from Emma. I ignored them all and headed to my lawyer's office. Robert Wilson had handled my divorce from Mark 2 years ago. He knew exactly what kind of person we were dealing with. "Let me get this straight," Robert said, peering at me over his reading glasses. "Your ex-husband, the one who emptied your accounts and left you with $500,000 in debt, just married your sister, and you paid for the wedding." I nodded, sliding over my folder of documentation. $45,000 total. Plus, they used the last payment of $15,000, meant for catering upgrades, as a down payment on a house. Robert whistled low as he flipped through the papers. "And everything's in your name. Every receipt, every contract, every vendor agreement." Emma didn't sign a single document. She didn't even communicate with the vendors. I handled everything. A slow smile spread across Robert's face. "You know, Sophie, sometimes the best revenge is just good business." Over the next hour, we formulated a plan. First, Robert drafted a formal demand letter for the full repayment of the wedding expenses, including detailed documentation of every transaction. Then he began the process of placing a lien on their newly purchased house. "Since they used your money for the down payment without your consent, we have grounds to claim partial ownership," he explained. "At minimum, we can force a sale and recoup your investment." But that was just the beginning. As I left Robert's office, I made another call, this time to my friend Sarah at the IRS. 2 years ago, she'd helped me untangle the mess of fraudulent tax returns Mark had filed in my name. Now it was time to return the favor. "I'll look into their recent filings," she promised. "If they use fraudulent means to secure that mortgage, they're in for a world of hurt." Back at my apartment, I finally read Emma's messages. They ranged from defensive to angry to pleading. "You're overreacting. Mark and I are in love. You're just jealous because I got your leftovers. Please don't ruin this for me. You're my only family." The last one made me laugh bitterly. Family? She'd thrown away our relationship for a man who had already proven himself to be a con artist. My phone rang, an unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Sophie." Mark's smooth voice filled my ear. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." My voice was ice. "Don't be like that, sweetheart. What Emma and I did, it wasn't personal. You were always so generous, so eager to help. We just took advantage of an opportunity." "An opportunity?" I gripped my phone tighter. "You married my sister to scam me out of money." He chuckled. "Come on, you're a businesswoman. Think of it as a merger of interests. Emma needed a husband, I needed capital, and you needed to feel like the heroic big sister. Everyone got what they wanted. Except I didn't want to be robbed by my ex-husband and my sister." Robbed is such an ugly word. His tone turned serious. "Look, here's the deal. Back off with the lawyers, forget about the money, and we'll let you stay in our lives. Emma misses you already. We could be one big happy family." I thought about our parents, how they'd worked so hard to give us a good life, how they taught us about integrity and loyalty. Emma had thrown away all of that for what? A con man's promises. "You know what, Mark? You're right, I am a businesswoman. And business is all about accountability." I hung up before he could respond. The next week passed in a blur of legal meetings and financial investigations. My private investigator discovered that Mark had been planning this for months. He'd accidentally run into Emma at her favorite coffee shop, spent weeks charming her, all while gathering information about my finances. Emma hadn't been an innocent victim. She'd actively participated in the deception. Bank records showed she'd been transferring money to Mark's accounts since before James left her. The entire broken engagement story had been a lie to manipulate my sympathies. The real James, when contacted by my PI, revealed that Emma had ended their engagement, claiming she'd inherited money and wanted to upgrade her life. He was devastated to learn about her marriage, but not surprised by the deception. 10 days after the wedding, while Mark and Emma were still posting honeymoon photos from Bali, everything was in place. I sat in my office, staring at 3 emails I was about to send. The first was to the mortgage company, providing evidence that the down payment had been obtained fraudulently. The second was to the wedding vendors, asserting my rights as the contracting party and requesting specific documentation. The third was to Emma's school board, suggesting they review the emergency loans she'd been requesting from the teacher's fund. My finger hovered over the send button when a new message popped up from Emma. "Having the time of our life in Bali. The resort is amazing. So much better than that cheap beach vacation you and Mark took for your honeymoon. He says he never really loved you anyway. Thanks again for making our dreams come true." Attached was a photo of them drinking champagne in an infinity pool, Emma wearing the diamond bracelet I'd bought her for being my supportive sister during my divorce. I clicked send on all 3 emails. Within hours, the responses started rolling in. The mortgage company launched an immediate investigation. The wedding vendors, concerned about potential fraud, sent over documents showing Emma had misrepresented herself as my authorized agent. The school board scheduled an emergency meeting. By the time Mark and Emma's flight landed back in the States, their perfect world was already crumbling. Their house purchase was under investigation. Their wedding vendors were pursuing fraud charges, and Emma's job was hanging by a thread. My phone rang again. "Emma." "What have you done?" she screamed. "The bank just called Mark about the mortgage. They're talking about fraud charges." "Interesting," I replied calmly. "Did you tell them how you obtained the down payment?" "That money was a gift." She was crying now. "You're just bitter because Mark chose me over you." "A gift?" I laughed. "I have texts from you specifically requesting money for catering. I have contracts showing I paid for wedding services, and I have evidence showing you and Mark conspired to defraud me. You can't prove that." "Actually, I can. Check your email." I'd sent her a single document, a compilation of text messages between her and Mark, dating back 6 months. Messages planning how to manipulate me, laughing about their deception, calculating exactly how much they could squeeze out of my savings. The line went quiet. "You're bluffing," she whispered, but I could hear the fear in her voice. "Emma, you forget what I do for a living. I track money. I understand paper trails, and I know exactly how to use them. What do you want?" "I want my money back, all of it. I want you and Mark to disappear from my life. And I want you to remember something. You didn't just steal from me, you betrayed me. Both of you did. And unlike last time with Mark, I'm not going to sit quietly and let you get away with it." She started to say something, but I hung up. Let her and Mark figure out their next move. I had already made mine. Opening my laptop, I began drafting a detailed report for the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just good business, it's justice. And I was just getting started. 3 days after Emma's frantic call, my lawyer delivered the news I'd been waiting for. "The FBI has opened an official investigation," Robert announced. "They're particularly interested in Mark's pattern of financial fraud across state lines." I sat back in my office chair, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. What about Emma? She's definitely implicated. The texts and emails show she was a willing participant in the scheme. Plus, there's the matter of those missing funds from her school's emergency teacher fund. My sister, the kindergarten teacher, had apparently been borrowing from a fund meant to help teachers with medical emergencies. She'd taken nearly $30,000 over 6 months, right around the time she met Mark. The school board's investigation was already underway. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You think you're so clever, but you've just made a huge mistake. M." I forwarded the message to Robert without responding. Mark's threats were empty now. He had bigger problems than me. The next morning, I arrived at work to find Emma waiting in the lobby. She looked terrible, her designer clothes wrinkled, her eyes red from crying. Security stopped her before she could reach the elevators. "Ms. Chen," the guard called out. "Should we escort her out?" I considered it for a moment. "No, Jerry. I'll handle this." Emma followed me to a small conference room, her high heels clicking desperately on the marble floor. As soon as the door closed, she broke down. "You have to stop this," she sobbed. "The FBI came to our house yesterday. They're freezing our accounts. The school suspended me pending investigation." Mark is what?" I kept my voice neutral. "He's gone." She collapsed into a chair. "I woke up this morning and he was gone. He took everything, my jewelry, my car, even my passport. He left a note saying I should have known better than to trust him." I wanted to feel sympathy. Part of me, the big sister who had protected her since our parents died, wanted to comfort her. But I remembered her smirking face at the wedding, her cruel texts, her willing participation in stealing from me. "What did you expect, Emma? This is exactly what he did to me 2 years ago." "But he said he loved me." She looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. "He said you were cold and controlling, that you drove him to gambling. He said I was different, special." I pulled out my phone and played a recording, Mark's voice filling the room. "Emma's perfect for this con. She's always been jealous of Sophie, always wanted what her sister had. All I had to do was tell her she was prettier, smarter, more deserving. She ate it up like candy." Emma's face crumpled. Where did you get that?" My private investigator found Mark's burner phone. There were hours of recordings, him bragging to his gambling buddies about his perfect scheme. How he'd use my sister to get to my money, then move on to his next target. "Oh God." Emma bent over, retching. I handed her a wastebasket, waiting while she composed herself. "The FBI has all of this," she whispered. I nodded. "Along with evidence of the teacher fund embezzlement, the fraudulent mortgage application, and your involvement in deceiving me about the wedding expenses." "I'll pay you back," she said quickly. "I'll get a loan, sell everything." "You don't have anything to sell. Mark took it all, remember? Besides, this isn't about money anymore." "Then what do you want?" I leaned forward, meeting her eyes. "I want you to understand what you did. Not just to me, but to yourself. You threw away our relationship, our family, for a con man who saw you as nothing more than a means to an end." "I was jealous," she admitted quietly. "You were always the successful one, the responsible one. When Mark told me I deserved better, that I could have everything you had, I wanted to believe him. And now I'm probably going to jail." Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "Probably," I agreed. "The FBI agent handling the case thinks you're looking at 2 to 3 years minimum. Mark, when they catch him, will get much more." "When they catch him." I allowed myself a small smile. "Oh, they'll catch him. Remember that private investigator I hired? He's been tracking Mark's movements for weeks. Right now, your loving husband is on his way to Las Vegas, probably planning to turn your jewelry into gambling money. Emma's phone buzzed. A news alert. Her hands shook as she read it. Local teacher suspended amid federal fraud investigation. The school board meets tomorrow to decide on termination. I told her. Your teaching license will probably be revoked. Sophie, please, she begged. You're my sister. Help me fix this. I was your sister when you conspired with my ex-husband to steal from me. I was your sister when you mocked my pain and celebrated my humiliation. I was your sister when you chose money and revenge over family. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. The FBI will probably contact you again today. I suggest you cooperate fully. It might help reduce your sentence. What about Mom and Dad? She whispered. What would they think of you doing this to me? The low blow hit its mark, but I kept my composure. They'd be heartbroken, not because I'm holding you accountable, but because their daughter became someone who could betray her own sister for money. I walked to the door, then paused. One more thing. The house you put a down payment on with my money. The bank is foreclosing. You have until the end of the month to move out. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. I left her crying in the conference room, instructing security to escort her out after 5 minutes. As I rode the elevator to my office, I felt lighter somehow. The hurt and anger were still there, but they no longer controlled me. My phone buzzed with a message from the FBI agent handling the case. Mark Winters spotted in Vegas. Surveillance in place. Will update soon. I smiled, thinking of Mark's arrogant wink at the wedding. He thought he was so clever, using one sister against the other. He never realized he wasn't the only one who could play the long game. Opening my laptop, I began composing an email to our extended family, explaining why they wouldn't be seeing Emma at holiday gatherings for the next few years. Sometimes, I reflected, the hardest part of justice is accepting that it comes at a price. But as I looked at the wedding photos still on my desk, Emma beaming in her stolen happiness, Mark smirking at his successful con, I knew the price was worth it. Justice, after all, has a way of collecting its debts. 2 weeks later, I sat in my living room watching the evening news. The headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Former investment banker arrested in multi-state fraud scheme. Mark's mugshot filled the screen, his smug smile replaced by defeat. The FBI had caught him at the Bellagio in the middle of a high-stakes poker game. He'd already gambled away most of Emma's jewelry and was betting with counterfeit chips, another federal charge to add to his growing list. My phone buzzed with a text from the FBI agent. Thought you'd want to know. He rolled on Emma completely. Gave us everything, including recordings we didn't have. He claims it was all her idea. Of course he did. Mark would throw anyone under the bus to save himself. But the evidence told a different story, and both of them would face the consequences. Emma's sentencing was scheduled for next month. Her lawyer had negotiated a plea deal. 2 years in a minimum security facility, plus restitution. She'd lost her teaching license, her reputation, and her freedom. The local papers had dubbed it the kindergarten con. Focusing on how she'd stolen from a fund meant to help struggling teachers. I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped out onto my balcony, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk settled. My phone had been quiet lately. No more desperate calls from Emma. No more threats from Mark. The silence felt like peace. A letter had arrived from Emma yesterday, sent from the temporary housing where she was staying until sentencing. I hadn't opened it yet, unsure if I wanted to hear more excuses or accusations. But tonight, with Mark's arrest giving closure to one chapter, I decided to read it. Dear Stuffy, I've written this letter 100 times in my head. Nothing I say can fix what I did, but you deserve to hear the truth. I was jealous of you my entire life. You were the smart one, the successful one, the one who made Mom and Dad proud. Even after they died, you stepped up and took care of everything, including me. I resented being the family charity case. When Mark found me at that coffee shop, he knew exactly what buttons to push. He made me feel special, chosen. He said you'd always look down on me, that you helped me just to feel superior. I wanted to believe him because it was easier than admitting I was jealous of my own sister. Using your money for the wedding wasn't just about greed. I wanted to hurt you, to take something from you. Mark encouraged it, but the darkness was already in me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that losing you is the worst punishment of all. Prison I can handle, But knowing I destroyed our family for a con man's lies, that's the real sentence. Mom and Dad would be ashamed of me. I'm ashamed of me. I'm sorry, Sophie, for everything. Emma. I folded the letter and slipped it back into its envelope, wiping away unexpected tears. The apology didn't change anything, couldn't change anything, but at least it was honest. My phone rang. Aunt Patricia, our mother's sister. I saw the news about Mark, she said without preamble. How are you holding up? I'm okay, I replied, surprised to find it was true. It's finally over. And Emma? I sighed. She made her choices. Now she has to live with them. Your mother would be proud of you, Aunt Patricia said softly. Not for the revenge, though God knows they deserved it, but for standing up for yourself, for not letting them make you a victim. After we hung up, I stayed on the balcony, thinking about family, betrayal, and forgiveness. Emma's letter sat heavy in my pocket, a reminder that sometimes the people who can hurt us most are the ones we love most. Would I ever forgive her? Maybe someday. But for now, I was content knowing that justice had been served, not just for me, but for everyone they tried to con. My phone buzzed one last time, another news alert, second arrest in wedding fraud case. Bride surrenders to federal authorities. I closed the alert without reading further. Emma had chosen her path, just as I had chosen mine. The difference was I could sleep at night knowing I hadn't betrayed the people who loved me. The city hummed below, life moving forward as it always does. Tomorrow I would go to work, continue building my career, maybe even start dating again. But tonight, I raised my wine glass to the stars, making a silent toast to lessons learned and bridges burned. Sometimes the most expensive thing in life isn't money, it's trust, and once broken, no amount of wedding gifts can buy it back.